For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Reverend Jen Crow. I'm one of your co-senior ministers here at First Universalist Church. And whether this is your first time joining us online or you've been a member here for years and you're much more used to sitting with us in the sanctuary, we're glad that all of you are here. And I just want to send a special shout out over to the Pride Institute. I know that y'all are watching and I'm super glad you're here. I hope that all of us find some sustenance to get through these days that are in front of us. So for 176 years, we have been the people of love and hope. That's what this church is about, First Universalist. We are the people of love and hope who give, receive, and grow together. We are people who listen deeply to where love is calling us next. We are people who welcome, affirm, and protect the light in each human heart. We are people who cultivate compassion and courage in the service to justice. So we do all of this as a faith community deeply committed to racial justice. This is who we are and what we are about. And this is the life we invite you into when you join with us. We are the people of love and hope, especially now. Let me invite us into the spiritual practice I've been teaching us and we've been doing together for many weeks now. So this is the spiritual practice of 3 deep breaths. So I want to invite you to make yourself comfortable wherever you are. Maybe put your feet on the floor if they reach. Maybe let your shoulders roll up and down and back. Maybe it's softening your gaze or just feeling your body in the chair or on the couch or in the bed, wherever you are. And then let's join together for 3 deep breaths. So full breath in, hold it for a beat, and then super slow on the exhale. Then again, full breath in. Hold it for a beat. Super slow on the exhale. One more deep breath in. Hold it. Slow breath out. This is how we settle our bodies and our minds and our spirits. Welcome to this place, this time, this moment. And now I invite you to find your chalice if you have one, or a candle, or to just imagine one in your mind's eye. And we're going to go ahead and light our chalice together with Knut and Beatrice.
Please join me for the words of the lighting of the chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Thank you so much, Knut and Beatrice. Beautiful work. So for those of you I don't know, my name is Seth, Matz, and I'm the Young Children's Program Coordinator here at First Universalist, and I have the great honor of telling our story this morning. And as you all know, our world has fallen on some hard times, and we know it's fallen on some hard times before. And this is a story about one of those times. It's in the time when the Buddha lived. The people of the land were struggling to make ends meet. There was no food. There was no money to buy food. There was no work available to make money to buy food. The people were really hungry, really sad, and really worried. So in the midst of all of this, some very bad things were happening. People were becoming greedy and violent and only looking out for themselves. So a few people went to go visit the Buddha to tell him what was happening. And they told him that people in the village were stealing from one another. They said that people were hurting and killing one another. They said children were going hungry in the street, while wealthy people were hoarding food in their storehouses. The Buddha was devastated to hear this, and he called together a great big meeting of all of the people of the village. People all over the land came to hear the Buddha speak. The children and the grown-ups, the poor and the wealthy, everybody came together to hear the Buddha. The Buddha said, "My people, there must be enough food between us for all of us to eat." And people muttered their excuses and reasons from the crowd. They said, "Oh, my granaries are empty. And, you know, how are there so many poor people anyway? They should just go find work. The Buddha was reasonably disappointed to hear this. He said, "Do you mean to tell me that there is no one in this crowd who will take on the task of caring for our people in these hard times?" There was silence. But then one tiny little voice chirped up in the crowd. "I will, Lord Buddha." A tiny child, no more than 5 or 6 years old, walked out of the crowd and came up to the Buddha. She said, "My name is Supriya, and I want to help feed the hungry. When can I begin?" The Buddha smiled at Supriya. She was so sweet. She was so enthusiastic. He said, "Sweet child, your heart is clearly filled to the brim. But how can you do this work alone?" Supriya said, "Not alone, of course. I will take this bowl. I will go from house to house asking people to donate food to the poor. I'm certain they'll agree." So, with this sweet young child eager to help her people, the villagers in the crowd got a little embarrassed. They realized how selfish they had been to hoard all of their food and their supplies and their toilet paper. So, the very next day, for days and days to follow, Supriya took her bowl to every home in the village, and folks gave what they could. People gave their canned goods and their bags of rice. People gave fresh fruits and vegetables from their gardens and loaves of bread they baked in their homes. Children gave their sweets and their treats and messages of love and joy. Sometimes people would even offer to take the bowl from Supriya and take up the collection while she rested. And sometimes it is said that when Supriya got tired, she would rest in the shade of the banyan tree. And when she awoke, she would find the bowl had filled itself. And the people were well again. Friends, in these hard times, it can be really hard to remember what we have the power to do and to know how best to serve our people. But we know from Supriya's story and from all of the Supriyas in our lives that just doing what we can is always enough. If we share our love and our light with the world, we inspire others to share their love and light too. And in the words of Mother Teresa, if we cannot feed everyone, we can feed one person. May it be so. Amen. Now, please enjoy this lovely tune from our very own choir. Don't worry about singing along, because they're going to be singing in Latin. So don't worry about that. But sit back and enjoy Rorando Coeli, composed by Jan Kampanus Wadnanski.
Oh, it's so beautiful to hear voices joined together in song right now. It does my heart a world of good. And so I'm so grateful to the choir and Randy and John Stites, our sound person, for making that possible this morning. I'm Reverend Ruth MacKenzie, and I'm one of the ministers that serves First Universalist Church. And I invite you now to come into this time of prayer and meditation, to come into this time of blue skies with a few clouds, of exhaustion and grace to come into this time of openings and closings and find yourself right here, right now. So take a moment and find your feet on the floor. Place your feet on the floor, and if you're sitting on the floor or on a bed, find your place there. Let your sit bones sink into the pillow, the carpet. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or simply soften your gaze. Let the breath move in and out of your body. If you're doing the dishes or playing with a toy, maybe place that aside for now and just come into this community of calm, this community of love and focus. Today, I want to use the prayer and meditation that Seth taught us several weeks ago when we were still meeting in the sanctuary. It's called the hand prayer. And what I'd like you to do is bring your hand up and face the palm towards you. Now I'm going to face my palm out, so in case you need to have a guide, you can follow my hand, but you can just simply bring your hand up with your palm facing you and place your fingertip on your thumb. The first thing we're going to do is just breathe in and out as we trace our fingers. So what we'll be doing is breathing in as we trace our finger down to the base of our palm. Breathing out as we trace our finger to our pointing finger. Breathing in and breathing out to our next finger. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Now breathing in. And then as you exhale, place the palm of your hand over your heart and just feel your heartbeat underneath your palm, knowing that 450 people are doing this with you right now. Feeling our breath moving in and through our bodies, feeling our heartbeat as we enter the sacred silence. And now take that same hand with your palm facing you, and we'll begin again. And this time we'll be praying with each one of our fingers. We'll begin with our thumb. Put a finger on your thumb. Your thumb is the closest finger to you. And this is the finger we use to remember those friends and family who we want to keep in our prayers. Bring to mind your family, the friends that are dear to you, and then breathe in and breathe out as you move your hand to your pointing finger. Your pointing finger gives direction and guides the way. This pointing finger reminds us to pray for those who lead us. And so it's a prayer for our ministers, our legislators, our governor, the artists, and the activists. Breathing in, let your finger trace to the base of your palm. And breathing out, now move your finger to your middle finger. This is the tallest finger on your hand, and the middle finger reminds us of those who inspire us. And so bring to mind your mentors, your teachers, your role models, those who call us to look upwards and outwards. Breathing in, trace your finger down to your base of your palm. And breathing out, go up to the tip of your ring finger. Your ring finger is your weakest finger. It relies on fingers surrounding it to give it strength, to find its own strength. The ring finger reminds us to pray for those who are in need. We pray for those in mourning, for those bearing burdens, and all those living in turmoil. Breathing in, we trace our finger to the base of our palm. And breathing out, we come to our pinky finger, which is the smallest and most vulnerable finger. The pinky reminds us to pray for ourselves. May we always protect our tender hearts, and may we always give ourselves loving care and compassion. Breathing in, let your finger go to the base of your palm, and then breathing out, put your hands in the form of a prayer, or on your heart, or in your lap. Rest for a moment, holding your family, your friends, our leaders, our mentors, people we know and don't know who are having a hard time of it, and for yourself. Spirit of life and love, gather us up. Soothe our tiredness, quiet our worry. Let us be easy for a moment. Release us from our fears and open us to receive the gifts that are around us, even in the toughest of times. Let us find wisdom in our wounds, compassion in our weakness, honesty in our fear, and love in it all. There are so many we are holding today, so many concerns that are moving in and through our lives. And so I invite you now to share those concerns in the chat box or simply hold them in the silent sanctuary of your heart. Yes. Mm-hmm. We hold all of this together. Today, to acknowledge the heartache and the loss that our dear friends are bearing, and to hold the light in each human heart as sacred. We light a candle for Robert Benjamin. May his light and life live on in us all. Dear ones, these are times of mourning and endurance, and these are times of surprising grace, that which breaks through and gives us hope and our lives meaning. And so I invite you now to share your joys, your surprises, those things that are helping you get through. You can write them in the chat box or simply hold them in your heart. Thank you for sharing your joys, your concerns, in the deep embrace of this community. May the grip of addiction be loosened. May the weight of oppression be lightened. May grief be shared. May joy break through, and may love make every suffering bearable. May it be so, and amen. And now we have a wonderful bit of grace that is being given to us by Annie Peichel, her father Dave, Randy Buikema, and a few of our choir members. They figured out how to sing Spirit of Life together so that we could all sing it with them. And you are in for a moment of sheer beauty. Please join us in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me.
Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion.
Blow in the wind,
Rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me.
So beautiful. I love seeing your faces, hearing your voices, and imagining us singing wherever we are, around the world, around the country, around the Twin Cities. We are singing together. It is so good to be together again, because friends, it has been another hard week. This week, like every week for the last 6+ weeks, we have gotten word of new closings, new job losses, new illnesses and death, new changes that none of us want and that are going to go on for longer than any of us can imagine. It's been another hard week piled on top of a previous hard week for many of us. And here we are. I've been watching and listening in my own self and my family, listening and watching as all of you navigate as well, riding this wild roller coaster that we are on. This wild roller coaster that takes us down into the depths of fear and grief and worry and anxiety and loss. And then it takes us up in those moments into highs when we can let go of our expectations, maybe lighten them up a bit, expectations of ourselves and each other. Those moments when we can let the laughter just rip out of nowhere sometimes. Those moments when we can remember that each of us is feeling anxious, some of us angry and afraid and frazzled. And we can look to ourselves and each other and apologize and begin again in love. This is the wild ride we are on together. Each of us in our own place, each of us doing our best to let go of what we need to let go of and hold on tight to what we need to hold on tight to. We are learning to let go of many of the things we used to count on to steady ourselves. And we are learning to hold on even more tightly to the things that matter most. We are listening to the wisdom of our ancestors. We are remembering that each and every one of us is whole and holy and worthy, valued and valuable, that each one of us matters, that we are interconnected, just as we always have been. And I think for some of us, in this time when things are standing still in some places and some moments where the distractions have slipped away, we are seeing what has been true for so long, that our society is sick, that our systems are sick, that our planet itself is sick. The way we've gotten used to doing things is making us all sick, even our earth. We've gotten used to it. We've gotten used to fear and greed and hatred. Somehow oppression has become normalized. Somehow we've gotten in this pattern where for generations now, we've been treating each other and this earth as simply a resource to be extracted and then hoarded and kept to ourselves. We've gotten used to this way of being, and this virus is slowing us down, stopping us in our tracks so that we can recognize again what has always been true, that whether we live in Africa or Alaska, Idaho or Italy, we are all connected. What happens to one of us happens to all of us, and when one of us is sick, none of us can be well. This is what has always been true, and it is what is true right now, too. So many folks are sick right now. So many folks are dealing with illness and the fear of illness, and one of the ways that we are showing our love for one another is by staying physically separate so that fewer people get sick. This is part of how we show love and care for each other right now. But I want to say that even though this virus at this point doesn't have a treatment or a cure or a vaccine, even though we've been putting so much of our energy on having fewer people get sick, there are also ways that we can help ourselves and each other get well right now. We can get well right now in this moment. So one of the ways I've been thinking about this and learning about this is by looking to the wisdom that is all around us. And I've been looking in particular to the wisdom that I have found in this particular article that was in the New Yorker recently. And I recommend that you take a look when you get a chance after worship, of course. So this is in the New Yorker, and this beautiful picture of Nelson Mandela, this article about how much can the human spirit endure in isolation. So in this article, the reporter Robin Wright tells the story of 3 people who lived for years in prison and how they survived and ultimately emerged to thrive. We can come on back to me now. I'll tell you the story. So one of those people that the author is writing about is Mansour Omari, a Syrian journalist who was one of the people that was telling the story about the human rights abuses that were happening during the Arab Spring protests. And Omari was ultimately captured and imprisoned for the work that he was doing, trying to tell the truth about the atrocities in front of him. Now, Omari was placed in an underground prison cell with what ranged between 60 and 80 people there in that dark, dank, filthy place. Now, all of the prisoners down there, many, if not all of their families, had no idea where they were, if they were even alive, if they were surviving, what was happening to them. And in this tiny underground cell where these 60 to 80 prisoners were, there wasn't room really for all of them. They had to work together to come up with a system and a way to live together in that horrible environment. They had to create a schedule for who was going to sit and when, who was going to squat and when, who was going to sleep and when. They didn't have a toilet, so toilet paper wasn't an issue for them. They were enduring tremendous hardship, and they had to work together if any of them were going to survive. And all of them were very concerned about their families on the outside. They were concerned about the worry they were experiencing, wondering what they thought was happening. And so among those prisoners, they came up with a plan. They crafted a quill out of a chicken bone, and they made ink out of the rust that they scraped off one of the prison bars and out of blood. So they made themselves a quill, they made themselves ink, they took a shirt and they tore it into tiny strips, and each of them wrote their name on one of those strips. And those strips of cloth with their names on them, written for some of them with their own blood, with the rust of the bars. One of them had been a tailor in his previous life, and he took those strips of cloth, each with the name in it, and he sewed it in to the collar of a shirt and into the cuffs of the shirt. That's where they hid the names. So this one shirt ended up holding 82 names of all of the prisoners who came into that cell. And the deal was that whoever left the cell first, whoever was on their way to freedom, was going to wear that shirt. And their job when they got out to safety was going to be to get in touch with all of the families of those 82 prisoners. Can you even imagine the creativity, the courage, the care for others, even when you're going through something so difficult? I can hardly even imagine it. So it turns out in this story that Omari was the first one to leave the prison, and he wore that shirt out. And he was transferred first to one prison and then the other, wearing that shirt with moisture and sweat, slowly wearing away some of the names that had been sewn into the collar and the cuffs of that shirt. When Omari was finally released out into freedom, there were 31 names still inside that shirt. And he managed to find 30 of those families to let them know what had happened, where their loved ones were, and what was going on. 30 families found out the news they had been waiting for, that their loved ones were alive, at least at one point, where they'd been and what was happening. And while I know those 30 families got that piece of information they needed, I think about those other 52 families, those other 52 prisoners who were left out, even as they were written in. And I think about right now in our world, who are those people whose names are being erased? Who are the kids who don't have other kids' phone numbers, who aren't having access to devices and social media? Who are those people among us who don't have a safe place to call home? And how might we write their names in permanent marker, in permanent ink, on our hearts, inside of our collars, on our cuffs, that we might carry them with us? Because the thing is, for Omari, when he made his way to safety, he was not absolved of responsibility, not absolved of the solidarity that he and those prisoners had felt together. In fact, when he made his way to freedom, he was even more responsible, even more woven into the lives of those he had left behind, as he reached out to their families, as he told their stories, and as he heard theirs. What would it be like if we were woven together like that? All of us, all the time. What would it be like if we could remember, like Martin Luther King said, that we are all bound up together in this inescapable network of mutuality, all tied together in one single garment, one single destiny? That is the truth. That is what we see when we can sit and let it all in right now. This interconnection, the ways that we are written on each other's hearts. And I charge us to remember those names and those stories that are easier not to hear, easier to forget, that we let in the stories that are painful and the people that are so often left out. And we hold them close inside this universalist love of ours that will not let anyone go. Because this is who we are. And this is what we are about. It's what we've been about for the last 176 years. A love so big that no one is left out of the circle. A love that says every single person with all of our identities and all of our life experiences, all of it matters, all of it is valuable, all of it is wanted and welcomed here in our hearts in this spiritual community. This is who we are. We are the ones who have been saying for always that we are interconnected, that each and every person and being is valuable, that all of us are wound together, sewn together in this garment. So Omari, when the reporter went back to talk to him later, just a few weeks ago, really, the reporter went back and said, Omari, tell me, what is it from your experience there in the prison cell and beyond that could be helpful to us living through this time of crisis, this time of pandemic? Now, what did you learn? What helped? And he said so clearly that going through that suffering together gave them a sense of unity. So the shared experience of suffering brought a shared sense of unity and sympathy. And in that, they found solidarity with one another. They really knew that they were in it together, that what one of them did mattered to the one right next to them. They could feel it and see it and know it. Shared suffering brought on shared unity and shared sympathy and solidarity. And this is how they got through, and this is how he went on to thrive afterwards. So friends, we are in an experience where we could take this time as a moment, as many moments actually, piled on top of each other of shared suffering, of shared sympathy, of shared unity. This could be a time where we learn solidarity in our hearts, even more deeply with one another. Now, I have heard people say over the last few weeks, oh, this is great, we're all in the same boat. And I have really recoiled a bit in those moments because I don't believe we're all in the same boat. I believe we're all in the same storm, but I believe that for many of us, our boats are very different from each other. We are all in the same storm, weathering this time of unbelievable change and loss. We are all in this storm, weathering grief and fear, worrying and wondering how long this will go on and how much it will hurt ultimately. We are all in the same storm, but many of us are in very different boats. And for some of us, we are sinking, we are struggling. And it is a time when all of us need to reach out our hands, the ones of us who are struggling and sinking to grab on to the hands of others, and the ones who are steadily in their boats to reach out and hold on to one another, holding each other tight around the waist, throwing out a lifeline, doing something, piling in close to keep everyone together and safe as much as we can. We are not all in the same boat, not yet, but we are all in the same storm and we are all responsible for one another. So how in this moment might we show solidarity? Might we experience this suffering and come out of it with feelings of sympathy and unity? How can we remember that we are all in this together? I'm going to give us a couple of ideas today. So one idea, when we take up our offering in just a few moments, a little later in the service, I'm going to invite you to share your financial resources, if you have them, with our Sanctuary and Resistance Fund. This Sanctuary and Resistance Fund has been going on for several years now at church, and it's something that we use to help immigrants into our community. So over the last 2 years, we have given out over $21,000 in 29 $750 grants to people in need. We have paid the rent for single moms and their families. We've supported asylum seekers who are living in churches. We have helped pay the bond for people leaving detention centers and awaiting their trials, their immigration trials out in the community. We have done all this and we have paid out, like I said, over $21,000. And now that fund is down to just over $200. And I think right now, especially when our Black and Brown and Indigenous communities, especially when our immigrant communities are suffering at such disparate rates, it is especially important that we share what we have in the ways that we can. And one of the ways that we can do that is through this Sanctuary and Resistance Fund. So that opportunity will be coming up in just a few moments. Another way we can remember that we are all in this together, and this is a little bit of a stretch, but it's not really a stretch. I'm going over. Another way to remember that we are all in this together is to make our annual gifts to First Universalist Church. For real, folks, this is part of how we do things together. We are a network of mutuality. Each of us gives what we can so that this place and its resources can be here for all of us and for our entire community. So if you haven't made your annual gift yet, which is letting us know what you intend to give from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, please let us know. We know that this is an uncertain financial time for many of us. And so if it's not possible to make a gift for the whole year at this point, we understand, let us know that too. But if you are able to give, please do let us know what you're expecting to be able to give in the year ahead so that we can budget responsibly. For those of you who've already made your gifts, thank you. You are making this place possible for all of us, for our entire community. You are helping us to share our message of love and justice, of love and hope, not just with ourselves, but with the wider world. Now, I'm going to give you another suggestion on how we can feel solidarity with one another, a way that does not involve money, because money is just one of the ways that we are connected to each other, and it is never the only way. So friends, you know, I've been teaching us this 3 deep breaths practice, right? It's been something we started at the very first worship service, the very first online experience we had together. And I keep teaching us that because it is a spiritual tool we can go to wherever we are, whatever's going on around us. It's something we can rely on to help settle our mind and our body and our spirit. So I have been going back to one of my favorite spiritual teachers over the last few weeks. This is Jack Kornfield. He's a Western Buddhist monk and teacher, and I'm going to ask if we can take a look at the article from him. Some of these articles just have the worst names. Things keep getting scarier. How about that? He can help you cope. So what I've been finding in this article is that Jack Kornfield is often full of really practical advice. So, right, he's the one who wrote the book, After the Ecstasy, The Laundry. So I appreciate how he keeps it real. So here is what he has to say to us in this time. He says, with this pandemic, we have to accept where we are. We have to accept the uncertainty of it and then say, all right, I'm going to steady my own heart and then see how I can contribute. If you're a scientist, he says, you can contribute in your lab. If you're a poet, like those people singing from the balconies in Italy, send your poems out and buoy up the hearts of others. If you have the capacity, buy groceries for your neighbors. In Zen, he says, there are only 2 things. You sit, and then you sweep the garden. You sit, and then you sweep the garden. You quiet the mind, and then after you have done that, you get up and tend the garden with the gifts that you have been given. So this is our way in to solidarity with each other. We sit, or we stand, or we walk. We do what we need to do to settle our bodies and our minds. One of the ways we can do it is with those 3 deep breaths. We settle our minds and bodies and spirits, all of us here on this unsettled planet, in this unsettled time. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we can stop and pause and settle ourselves. And then, only then, do we get up and use the gifts that we have been given to help each other and this world. So friends, wherever you are, whatever is going on around you or inside of you, you can settle yourself with all of us, with this unsettled planet that is trying to find its way again. We can breathe together with everyone who has ever been, with everyone who is, with everyone who ever will be. We can breathe and settle ourselves. There is so much to do with the gifts that we have been given. But first, let us settle our minds and our spirits. Let's do that deep breathing together. And let us hold on to what's most important as we let go of the things that have been making us so sick. Even in this time of so much illness, there is so much we can do to help ourselves and each other get well. Let's do that together. May it be so, and amen. So today, one of the ways, like I said, that we show solidarity with one another, that we share in this time of suffering with sympathy and unity, is by sharing the gifts that we have. For some of us, those are our financial resources. So you'll see a slide now that tells you how you can contribute to the Sanctuary and Resistance Fund of our church. There are lots of ways to do it. You can text to give. You can use the Square Cash app. You can go to our website, and the old-fashioned but still super effective way of sending in a check. All of these ways work. All of these are ways that we can share what we have with each other to make sure that everybody has what they need. Every gift matters. We're grateful for your generosity. And friends, while you make your gifts, I'm going to invite us to sing together. To sing together, there's a river flowing in my soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
Friends, each of us is somebody. Each of us matters. We want to be connected with you during this time. We want you to know how important you are to us. So if you are not getting our emails, if you are not connected to the Weekly Liberal, the Family e-news, the e-knows would be really interesting, but the e-news is what I'm talking about. Let us know so that we can reach out and stay connected. There are lots of ways to be together today and then later on this week. Come on back and join us as I share our building renovation plans at 1 o'clock. Join us for the different youth group opportunities, for time for our little ones. Join us on Wednesday for worship. Join us throughout the week. We need each other all the time right now. So I want to remind you, again, you can make your annual gift at any time by emailing Chelsea, our financial assistant, at chelsea@firstuniv.org, or any of our staff. You can give on the website, and as always, you can send in a check. You can stay online and answer our worship survey after church today. We'd really appreciate your feedback. We want to know what this experience is like for you, and we're here for you. We're here for each other. If you are struggling, please reach out. It takes courage, and we will be here with compassion. Let's take a moment now to share our closing words. We hold out our hands to remember that we are all connected. May we know that our names are written on each other's hearts, that no matter what happens, we will not dissolve or slip away. We will hold tight to one another. We will reach out our hands. We will reach for help, and we will share what we have so that together we can all have what we need. May it be so. Amen. And let's sing now together. Go now in peace.